And welcome. This is an example of a player development plan that you might expect to see if you engage beyond the rope. Okay, first page obviously is information about the player. What is important to understand is that a lot of this information will be obtained from the player. You can see here we've done an analysis of the player's most recent season. This could be a single season, multiple seasons, or as we build a profile of a player over a number of years, we will incorporate work we've done in previous seasons. Importantly, what we really do with the statistical information is we analyse it and provide some insight as to what this tells us about the player. In this example player, we can note that 30% of the dismissals of the player are from being bowled, LBW or stumped. So these are dismissals where generally the player is missing the ball. We also note a high percentage of runouts, but on the positive side, this player has a very high average and has an excellent strike rate, particularly across the T20 format. The player also indicated that they aspire to be an off-spin bowler, but you'll see from the statistics that they don't bowl particularly a lot, and when they do bowl, it is not at the Premier level. All right, the next section of the development plan is aligning the player's elements of high performance to the player and their development over coming seasons. So what we'll be seeing here are a number of elements identified that relate to batting, bowling, fielding, depending on what the player is intending to do. There are a number of components the player can align to, but what we've done is identify a number of key things that this player should look at. For example, a reliable defence is important with those identified issues around being bowled. Again, as we move through the elements of high performance, we identify for this particular player the components we believe that should be his priorities. In this component of the elements, we're prioritising things like mental composure. This player is in a high performance pathway, so these are the sort of things we believe they need to be focusing on. We move into the next section. Some of this is KPIs. So these are things that can build over the current season. We haven't identified anything specifically for this player because this is an initial plan. We move on to things like the fielding elements as well. So most players or all players will get a fielding elements component. And these are components that we believe that they could focus on. Again, a lot of this is aligned to this player aspiration of being a high performance player. And we see a number of different components. Now, the player can choose to select any number of these KPIs or elements if they choose to focus on them. We're just providing the ones we believe would be a good idea for them to focus on initially. And then again, we move into other elements, such as the physical elements for high performance. In this context, we're looking at their training habits. So we'd be challenging this player to really understand what they do at training and how they do it, and potentially come back to us with conversations. And again, more components that relate to, in some instances, won't relate to players, particularly younger players, but certainly players aspiring to be at high performance level. These are the sort of key areas they can focus on. All right. Which leads us then to essentially the recommendations for this player in the first instance. So these are what we believe are 6 key focus areas that we would ask them or suggest that they look at to get to a higher level. We spoke earlier about tidying up the defence in relation to the number of times bowled, improving and working on running between the wickets, keep focusing on the strike rate for short form games, combating the short ball because as they move into the more high performance, that will become more of a relevant factor for them. Concentrating on elite training standards and fielding drills and strategy sessions for training. And more importantly, the one that we spoke about, noted previously was about off-spin bowling. It probably won't be practical for this player to learn to be bowling in game, but they should certainly be looking to improve and increase the amount of bowling they do in the training context. So again, these are development priority areas that the player can take away, work with their coaches, work with their different clubs to develop. And then finally, we finish with a high performance checklist. Again, this is just a checklist of characteristics and particular components that we believe the players could map themselves back to. What we'd be hoping to do is come back to the player in halfway through a season, for example, or at the end of a season, and map back how they think they've done against each of these criteria. And potentially, as we go through the years, if we have them as a multi-year player, we'll look at grading them against all of these components. And that is the end of the player development plan that you would expect to see from Beyond the Rope. Thank you.